Hey guys, thanks for stopping by Ballistic Barbecue. Doing a burger today, straight out of Folsom, California. We have the Beef Wellington Burger. Let's get going. All right guys, the Beef Wellington Burger. It's a creation of this bar and grill up in Folsom, California called Hampton's on Sutter. I just so happened to be up in the area last weekend visiting my brother-in-law and my sister. Big buzz going on about this burger. I had to go try it. So, when I make this thing, I think the same question is going to pop into your head that popped into mine while I was eating it. Is it a burger or is it more of a dish? I think it's kind of more of a dish, but nonetheless, this thing is insane. I mean, it's really, really good. Had to make a video. Now, what this is more of a deconstructed beef Wellington. It's got all the components of a beef Wellington, but it's presented to you as a burger. On the menu, it says they're using certified Angus beef, and that's really as far as it goes. It doesn't say what cut. So I decided when I went shopping for the meat today, I was going to go with something that would kind of engulf that beef Wellington feel. Now, what I've selected here is a porterhouse. This is certified Angus. The reason I went with the porterhouse is we have the nice tenderloin area, which is again traditional on the beef Wellington. We also have the New York strip. A lot of really good marbling and some great fat here for a burger. If I went with just the tenderloin itself, we'd end up with a very dry, flavorless patty. So what I'm going to do is remove the tenderloin and the strip from the bone, then we're going to get it in the grinder. Once I have it ground, I'll put it in a glass bowl, and I'm just going to throw it in the fridge, let it kind of cool down, set up a little bit before we actually start making the patties. All right, now on to the patties. So this is the beef I ended up with. As you can see, it's a pretty coarsely ground beef with a nice fat content. I'm guessing probably around the 20% fat. What I'm going to do now is grab about, I don't know, 10 ounces, 8 to 10 ounces of meat. And we are going to just form loose patties. I do not want these to be really compact, fairly thick. All right, and here we are. Now I have enough ground beef left for probably about 2 more decent sized patties. So I'm going to go ahead and bang those out real fast. I'm going to get these patties in the fridge, again, to keep them nice and cool, help them set up a little bit. After I'm done with that, we'll get on to the next step. All right, patties are done. They're chilling in the fridge right now. We're going to move on to the next step. One of the things that made this meal very memorable for me were the different layers, the different elements involved. They really went to a lot of effort to make this into what I'm going to call like a poor man's beef Wellington. This next step is freaking awesome. We are actually going to make bacon pate. Bacon pate, guys. So let's move on to that. All right, so I got my cast iron skillet heated up here. I'm going to throw in about 10 ounces of chopped bacon. What I'm going to do is just let this cook down, stir it occasionally, but I want to get the bacon all nice and crisp. All right, bacon is where I want it to be, so you're going to want to take a slotted spoon or something and just remove it from the pan. All right, so the bacon's been set aside. I have the stove turned to low, and I have here 1 medium onion that I've just coarsely chopped up. Get that into the oil here. 2 medium-sized carrots that have been diced. 1 bay leaf. What I'm going to do is just get all these veggies softened. Probably about 15 minutes of cooking it here on, again, low temperature, just stirring as I go. All right, so onions and the carrots are nice and soft now. I'm going to add, this is about 6 cloves of garlic that's chopped, about a teaspoon of fresh thyme, a little over a tablespoon of fresh chive chopped. Going to give these a few minutes, get the garlic nice and soft here. All right, this is looking good. Now, a few seconds ago, I went ahead and plucked out that bay leaf. We're going to move on to the next step here. Take that bacon and put that back in the mix. Now I have here 1/2 cup of water. Now remember, the temperature's turned down here, but you know it's still fairly hot, so we're going to very carefully add this to the skillet. Like that. Now at this point, you know what you could do is throw this in a food processor, a blender, or whatever. I'm going to use an immersion blender here. And what I'm going to do is make it into a, you know, more of a paste. Now what we're going to do is take 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, 1 teaspoon of soy sauce, 1 teaspoon of, get out of there, brown sugar, and a nice healthy pinch of black pepper. I'm going to go ahead and crank the heat up on this. And what I want to do is bring this to a boil. Get it all mixed up here. And just sticking it up just a little bit more than it is. I'm actually pretty happy with the consistency here. And there we have it, guys. Bacon pate. How awesome is that? Cool thing about this is you can actually do this a few days in advance, so you don't have to be rushing on the day you're going to cook. So, on to the next step. Pate's done. Now we're moving on to the next step, which is what's called a Duxelle, mushroom Duxelle, and it's very traditionally used on a beef Wellington. It's that kind of mushroom paste that they put around the tenderloin right before they, you know, wrap it with the pastry. So, have a bowl here. Normally I do this over a sink. This is a tea cloth. You don't want to use like a terry cloth when you do this. This wonderful looking stuff is actually about 8 ounces or so of portobello mushroom that I chopped up, and I use that immersion blender to get it all whipped up into like a puree here. What we're going to do now is get all the moisture, as much moisture as we can, out of this slurry of mushroom. So we'll throw this into the cloth here. Pretty good. Bear in mind, whatever cloth you use this on is toast afterwards. It'll stain the heck out of it. So I'm just going to wring this out like I'd wring a towel out. You can see that coming out of there. All right, what I'm going to do now is get this back into a bowl and meet you at my stove here. All right, so in the saucepan here, I'm going to put about a tablespoon of butter, get this melted. And the heat here is a medium-high heat. Very important that we do not burn the butter here. All right, now we're going to add that, so you can see how much drier the mushroom is. Add the mushroom to the mix here. And I have here 1 whole shallot that I've minced up pretty finely. I have here 1.5 tablespoons of fresh thyme. And if you're using dry, I would use like a teaspoon. A little salt to taste. A little pepper to taste. And what I'm looking for is the mushroom here to start turning brown. All right, so it's starting to darken a little bit. It's a lot drier than it used to be. We're going to add 1 more tablespoon of butter. Get that melted. All right, the butter is completely melted. I have here 1/4 cup of dry vermouth. And I'm just going to continue heating this, stirring until the vermouth is evaporated. And if you do not have vermouth, just a nice white wine or sherry or something would do fine. All right, vermouth is all evaporated. Looks really good. Smells just insane. Okay, what I'm going to do is turn the heat off. I'm going to move this off to the side, let it cool a little bit. Let's get on to the next step. Grill is preheating outside. We're on the final stretch of this cook. The last element that I need to prepare is going to be a sauce. It's a cognac cherry peppercorn sauce. Let's get it done because I am starving. All right, got the pan over a fairly low heat actually, and I'm going to melt 2 tablespoons of butter. All right, butter is melted. I have here 1 whole shallot that I've minced finely. And I'm just going to cook these again over that fairly low heat until they become kind of soft and tender. All right, the shallots are getting to where I want them to be. Now I'm going to add 1/2 cup of cognac. Crank up the heat, and I'm going to boil this until it reduces by half. All right, this is nice and reduced. I've got here 4 sprigs of fresh thyme into the mix. And then 3 cups of reduced sodium chicken stock. So I'm going to bring this up to a boil, and I'm going to reduce it until it's just over 1 cup of liquid. All right, so as you can see, it's been reduced quite a bit. I'm going to go ahead and pull out the sprigs of thyme. Now I've got 2 cups of heavy cream here. I'm going to stir this in. I've got here a couple teaspoons of cracked pepper, and this is actually the rainbow pepper, so it's got black peppercorn, red peppercorn. And I'm going to continue to boil this. I want to reduce it until it's about 2 cups of liquid here. All right, it's nice and reduced the way I want it to look. Now we're going to add a couple dashes of Worcestershire sauce, 2 teaspoons of lemon juice, 2 teaspoons of Dijon mustard, and I have here 1/4 cup of freshly grated Parmesan Reggiano. Just going to stir this up, and I'm going to whisk it until the cheese melts. All right guys, now for the fun part, we're going to do some cooking. Now, this is actually a video cook. I'm cooking the remainder of the meat tonight. We're having some friends over, so this is just for you guys. So I have my flat top down. I'd call this probably a medium heat. Go ahead, and I'm just going to brush down a little bit of canola since this is the first burger hitting it. It's all clean and everything, and I just don't want it to stick. All right, so I'm going to season this with a little bit of kosher salt. Some fresh ground pepper. We're going to get that on the griddle. Now once this is down, I'm going to go ahead and season the bottom of the patty here. Again, kosher salt, some ground pepper. Now I want to get a nice sear on this. At the restaurant, they actually cook these to order. If you wanted a rare patty, they'd cook it that way for you. And again, this is a ground porterhouse. It smells like steak right now. All right, guys, as you can see, I'm getting some nice color coming up the side of the patty. We're ready to flip this guy. The thing about these flat tops is you just get a killer crust on these. There we go, look at that, just a beaut. All right, guys, I'm pretty satisfied. I've got a great sear on both sides, and the doneness is where I want it. I wish you could smell this. Again, this is why I love hamburgers so much. I mean, especially when you can use premium meats, it's just like eating a steak. I mean, it's awesome. It just smells like a porterhouse cooking in my backyard right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this off the griddle. I'll meet you guys in the kitchen and we will assemble this beautiful beef Wellington burger. Meet you in there. All right, guys, we are ready to assemble this beef Wellington burger. Now, this is actually pretty close to the same plate that Hampton's on Sutter uses to plate this burger up on. So, first thing we're going to do is take some of this mushroom Duxelle, however you pronounce it. We're going to put it right down there in the middle. This stuff is really good, by the way. It has a flavor and kind of a taste that reminds me of like a Thanksgiving stuffing. It's good stuff. All right, now that burger on top. Now that bacon pate on top of this. Again, this stuff's insane. I'm going to find other uses for this pate. All right, now we're going to take that cream sauce, that cognac peppercorn cream, just pour it around the burger here. Make sure that it gets all the way around it. Basically this, you'll see, it's just more of a kind of a dipping sauce, I guess, while you're eating this. All right, as you can see, it's not anywhere near a traditional hamburger. Got one more part. They don't use a bun on this. They actually use puff pastry. Voila. Now, at Hampton's on Sutter, they have these little branding irons that they brand all their hamburgers with, including the traditional buns. So, we wouldn't be completely cloning this if I didn't brand it. Now, Hampton's, they have their own little logo. It's a cow's head, a steer head with horns and flames. I don't have anything that cool. What I do have is my initials. There we go. That's pretty cool. Anyway, let's give this a try. Here, let me show you this, by the way. Now, obviously this isn't a burger that you pick up and eat like a traditional burger. They give you a knife and fork, and you just sort of tear into it. Very textural with the puff pastry. You can see the burger is nice, medium, and you just sort of pick at it, but try to get all the little morsels here. Sorry, Hamptons. Mine's a little better. Anyway, guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope you try this out. Again, you can take some of these ideas here and throw it on a regular bun. You don't have to go with the puff pastry or anything. Oh, I know I'm going to get asked this. Puff pastry, I just bought. It's a frozen puff pastry that I baked. So thank you, Preference Farms. Anyway, guys, I'll see you in the next video.